Can everyone become a better builder? Yes! Hello everyone, my name is Wolfbiom and today I am going to show you how to improve your first starter bases in 5 simple steps. This tutorial is for absolute beginners, so don't worry, these are the very first things one might want to pay attention to while building. So, without more introduction, let's get started with the first point. The shape of a build can best be planned by laying out an outline before you start to build up the walls. With a more complex shape you can add much more interest, detail and depth to a build. And with that, you don't even have to think too much about your outlines, even if you just go quite random like me, it will look much better in the end. Just add some bits and blobs that go out, either they will be part of the house or you might want to build something like a porch. But I'd also like to point out that it is still completely fine and sometimes necessary for a build to be a simple square. There are different ways to add more to a build. So the only thing you might want to make sure is that when you count the blocks for the outline they are an uneven number. That will make it easier to build the roof later. But we're also going to now bring out these outer corners by one by just adding some blocks here. As for the roof, just take full blocks. If you feel confident enough, you can also experiment with the roof shape. For example, in this one I make it steeper towards the middle. Just make the middle ones 2 blocks high and instead of 1 and you're done. Connecting the different parts of the roof is also easily done. Just start at the outsides and continue building them until they connect at some point. Before you really start to build your base, take a look at your resources and the blocks that you have or those that are easy to get for you. Generally in survival I always find stone, oak, spruce or birchwood and dark oak wood useful. What I like to do is to build my house on a small base, so that it is lifted from the ground. Generally, the contrast between light and darker colors is nice to look at. In this case I will go with dark oak and birchwood. If you have more resources, you can also try different things out, like a mossy roof or different stones like quartzite or terracotta. About choosing the right blocks can be said a lot more, but that is for another time. Depth must be one of the most important things to look at. One of the most simple ways to add depth is to take out these outer columns by one, as I've already done. The next thing we're going to do is to just add another block on the front and back in the roof so that it comes out by one. And while we're at it, create a simple overhang in the roof by adding one more line of blocks. This already does a lot. Also make sure to place your door on the inside of the block so that it is a bit inward, thus also creating some depth. Depth can also be created with adding details, so the points detail and depth can overlap a bit. For the details there are many different possibilities, and I will show you some of them. For my base I choose to add some flower pots in front of the windows. Just add trapdoors like this and you can place anything on top. Here are a few simple window designs, and as you can see there are different ways to build windows other than using glass like trapdoors, fences or just scaffolding. What also adds a bit more variation in bigger windows is to alternate between 2 differently colored glasses. Other than that you can use trapdoors, slabs and stairs to kind of frame them. By adding a rim in a different color around the roof you can bring in another color and separate the roof from the walls further. I'm using birchwood to create a contrast between the lighter color of the birch and the darker ones. This also looks good for example with cobblestone. Adding also depth are a few additional columns using fences, slabs and staircases to connect them too. A chimney on the roof looks also great, and when you use a campfire and just place trapdoors around, you even have some smoke effect. As you might have noticed before, lanterns look quite a bit better than torches, so if you have the resources I'd recommend using them. They add both detail and light up your build. But as important it is to add details, it is just as important to not overdo them, like in this build. It's just too much and looks too busy. Texture can make your build far more interesting to look at, but just like details, don't overdo it. It can quickly look messy and might work on run-down, old and weathered buildings, but for other builds I'd recommend to keep them subtle. Though I'm all the way for weathered and organic builds. For my spruce plank area I use stripped spruce logs, and for the dark oak roof stripped dark oak logs. They are similar in color, so they won't stand out too much. As you can see I exchange more blocks in the bottom to help make it look less busy. Take a step back and look at your build and think about where it is exposed to the wind and rain the most, where it could be damaged, where are people walking on the floor and how old it is supposed to be. This also adds a bit of realism to it. For bigger buildings you might also want to consider creating a gradient using different colors, but that is a bit more advanced. Don't have your house sit there with nothing around it. To tie it all together, make sure you replant the grass around. At a path leading up to your house, place flowers, ferns and bushes. Replant a few trees here and there, or when you feel confident enough, try to build a custom one. You can place lanterns on fences to light the surrounding area up, or torches. One simple way to add these really simple flower beds is by surrounding a bit of dirt with trapdoors, and if you don't want it to turn to grass, use coarse dirt. As you can see, this is doing a lot. And with that, we have gone through all 5 points to turn something like this to something like this. There is a lot more to learn if you'd like to become an even better builder, but these are my 5 tips for beginners. Feel free to try them, and don't feel pressured to use them just because I said so. I hope you found something useful in this video and liked it. Until the next time, goodbye!